Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we are opening the case file on a book that it didn't just continue a series. It effectively redefined an entire career.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. We're looking at Sue Grafton's sixth entry in the alphabet mystery series, FIs for Fugitive. And we have a lot of great source material today to help us unpack this. Plot summaries, character breakdowns, and some really interesting publication history.
Which is so crucial for this specific book. Because this is widely considered the pivot point. I mean, it's the moment Kinsey Millhone goes from being a beloved genre favorite to a massive commercial force.
Right.
Published in 1989, and it was actually the first of her novels to hit the paperback bestseller lists. It really just changed the scale of what Grafton was doing.
It put her on the map in a completely new way. The reviews were glowing too, right?
Yeah. Kirkus Reviews called it a winner. They specifically praised the ambience, and Publishers Weekly noted the incredibly complex plot, basically saying, okay, this series is going to last all the way to Z.
Which is a bold, bold promise to make when you're only on letter F.
Exactly.
But before we get into the really heavy stuff, the murders, the family secrets, all that small-town claustrophobia, I want to start with a what if for you listening, because this book almost had a completely different identity.
It did.
Yeah, Grafton was originally dead set on calling it FS for forgery.
Right. Which, I mean, that implies a totally different kind of story.
Exactly.
You hear forgery, and you think white-collar crime. You think paper trails, maybe some, I don't know, handwriting analysis.
Not so sitting at desks.
Right. It's cerebral, but it's dry.
And Grafton realized that, thankfully, she was doing all this research on check fraud and document tampering, and she just hit a wall. She actually decided forgery was, her words, too boring a crime to carry the weight of a full novel.
Yeah, she needed physical stakes. She needed actual danger.
So she scrapped the paperwork and pivoted to Fugitive.
And that shift is everything. Because a fugitive implies a chase. It implies a ticking clock, right? It moves the story from an office setting to a manhunt.
Yeah.
And that allowed her to construct a plot that wasn't just a puzzle, but a real thriller.
So our mission today is to dive into how that switch paid off. We're going to look at the incredibly messy dynamics of the Fowler family, the specific psychology of the town of Floral Beach, and why this book works so well.
Let's do it.
To understand why this story hits so hard right out of the gate, we really have to look at where the main character, Kinsey Millhone, is personally when the book opens. Because usually, the detective is the stable center of a chaotic world.
Usually, yes.
But here, Kinsey is arguably in more chaos than her actual client.
She is completely displaced. If you recall the end of the previous book, E is for evidence.
Such a crazy ending.
Right. Kinsey's garage apartment, which is basically her sanctuary, was firebombed. It was completely destroyed.
Yeah.
So when F begins, she is effectively homeless. She's living out of a suitcase while her landlord, Henry Pitts, tries to rebuild her place.
It strips her of her armor.
It really does. It makes her vulnerable. Kinsey's usually very guarded, very self-efficient, but here she's unmoored. She doesn't have a routine, and that displacement is really the only reason she accepts a case out of town in Floral Beach, California.
She just needs somewhere to be.
Exactly. She needs the money, sure, but she also just needs to escape her own chaotic reality for a bit.
So she trades her own chaos for the Fowler family's chaos. Let's talk about that setup. Who exactly brings her into this mess?
Her client is Royce Fowler. And the stakes are established immediately because Royce is dying.
Right.
He has terminal cancer, he's bedridden, and he has one final objective before he passes away. He wants to clear his son's name.
The son being Bailey Fowler, the actual fugitive of the title?
Yes. And Bailey's backstory is legally fascinating. 17 years ago, he was accused of murdering a local girl named Jean Timberlake.
Now, most people assume if you're hiring a private investigator, you've been actively fighting the charge for years. You've been maintaining innocence.
But Bailey actually pleaded guilty.
That's the part that trips people up. If he pleaded guilty, case closed, right? Why are we digging this up 2 decades later?
Well, it was a strategic plea. He pleaded to voluntary manslaughter to avoid a first-degree murder charge and the gas chamber.
Okay, so self-preservation.
Exactly, not a confession of truth. But, and this is where the fugitive part comes in, shortly after getting to prison, he just walked away. He escaped.
And he didn't just go hide in a basement somewhere. He built a whole life.
For 17 years. He lived under an alias, had a job, paid his taxes. He was a model citizen. He basically proved he wasn't biologically wired for crime. But bad luck caught up with him. He was recaptured.
Wow.
And now that he's back in the system, that old plea deal is worthless to him emotionally. He claims he's innocent and he wants his name back.
So Royce, the dying father, believes him. He hires Kinsey. She heads out to Floral Beach, which is this isolated kind of run-down town. And instead of getting a hotel, Kinsey stays with the Fowler family at their motel.
And this is where the book brilliantly shifts from a standard procedural to this intense domestic drama.
The tension is wild.
You have to picture the atmosphere in this house. You have Royce dying in one room. You have his wife, Orabelle, who was also an invalid. She has severe diabetes. She's bitter. She's incredibly difficult to deal with.
And running the entire show is the daughter, Anne Fowler.
Anne is the absolute archetype of the dutiful daughter. She's 5 years older than Bailey. She's a high school counselor, so she's professionally empathetic. And she has taken a leave of absence from her career to become a full-time nurse for her parent.
The dynamic is just so palpable. You have Bailey, the criminal son, who ran away and caused all this trauma, yet he is the absolute center of his parents' universe. Royce is spending his dying breath trying to save him. Meanwhile, Anne is there, changing sheets, giving insulin shots, cooking meals.
And she is basically treated like cart of the furniture.
Exactly.
It's the prodigal son syndrome in full effect.
Yeah.
The bad child gets all the attention because they are the crisis. The good child gets ignored because they are the solution.
That's a great way to put it.
Kinsey picks up on this resentment immediately. It's just thick in the air. Anne is dutiful, but she's tight. She's clearly holding something back.
So Kinsey has to navigate this incredibly toxic household while trying to solve a 17-year-old Coles case. Let's look at the victim, Jean Timberlake, because in a lot of mysteries, the victim is just a name in a file. But Jean feels very present in this town's memory.
Grafton paints her as a really tragic figure. Jean was 17, widely described as a problem child. She was doing poorly in school, very rebellious. But the autopsy revealed the detail that anchors the entire plot.
Right.
Jean was pregnant when she died.
Which changes the motive profile completely. This isn't just a random teenage fight gone wrong. Pregnancy implies paternity, and paternity implies massive secret.
Exactly. If you find the father, you very likely find the killer. And Floral Beach is a small town. Everyone knows everyone. The list of potential fathers isn't long, but it is very dangerous.
Who are the main players on that suspect list? Because it's quite a web.
Well, you have the respectable men. There's White Shales. At the time of the murder, he was a teacher. Now, in the present day, he's the high school principal. He's a pillar of the community. And he's very helpful to Kinsey, almost eager to assist.
Which is always a red flag in a murder mystery.
Always. Then you have Dr. Dunn, the local physician, a man with a lot of status to lose.
And we also have Jean Timberlake, Jean's mother, who is a single mom, struggling with alcohol, very uncooperative. She refuses to identify Jean's father initially.
Right. And Kinsey, being Kinsey, starts pulling on all these threads, and the fabric of the town just starts tearing apart. She discovers that the paternity issue is actually double-layered.
This part is wild.
Through blood typing and medical records, Kinsey establishes that Dr. Dunn is Jean's unknown biological father.
So the respected local doctor is her actual dad?
Biological father, yes. But that's actually a red herring in terms of the pregnancy motive. Kinsey finds out that Dwight Shales, the principal, was having an affair with Jean. He was her teacher. And he is likely the father of the baby she was carrying when she died.
That is a massive scandal waiting to happen. You have the biological father and the lover, both powerful, respected men in a small town, both desperate to keep their connection to this dead girl hidden.
And this is where Grafton really critiques that small-town myth. We tend to think of small towns as safe because everybody knows everybody.
Right.
But Grafton argues the exact opposite here. Because everyone knows everyone. Everyone has leverage. The secrets are currency. Jean Timberlake was a literal threat to the reputation of the town's elite.
And we can't forget the other side of the tracks in this town. There's Tap Granger.
Yeah.
He was Bailey's old accomplice in some robberies.
Right. Tap represents the life Bailey left behind. He's still in town, still causing trouble. And he actually becomes the catalyst for the book's shift from a slow burn mystery to a full-on thriller.
Let's talk about that escalation, because right in the middle of the book, there is a scene that feels like an action movie. Bailey has been recaptured, he's being arraigned in court, and suddenly all hell breaks loose.
It's total chaos. Tap Granger pulls a gun in the courtroom. He stages a holdup right in front of the judge.
As a rescue mission.
Yeah, that's what it looks like on the surface.
Yeah.
And in the confusion, Bailey manages to escape custody again. He's now 2 for 2 on prison breaks. But Tap doesn't make it out. He's killed in the shootout during the escape.
So now Bailey's on the run again. The only witness to the escape plan is dead, and Kinsey is basically back to square one.
Or so it seems. But Kinsey investigates Tapp's motives. She talks to his widow, and she learns that Tapp didn't do this out of loyalty to his old buddy Bailey. He was paid to stage that distraction.
That changes everything. That proves there is an active conspiracy. Someone wanted Bailey out of jail.
Or they wanted him dead. Think about it. If Bailey is a fugitive, he's a moving target. If he's shot while escaping, the case is closed forever. It proves someone is pulling strings to ensure Bailey never stands trial. Because if he goes to trial, he might talk.
And this someone isn't done. The body count starts rising in the present day. This is what I find so brilliant about this book. The cold case aggressively bleeds into the present.
It gets extremely dark. Remember Bailey Fowler? The sick mother?
The one Anne is taking care of?
She dies. And it's not from the diabetes taking its natural course. Her insulin was tampered with. It was adulterated.
That is such an intimate way to kill someone. Poisoning via daily medication requires access. It requires deep trust. You literally have to look the person in the eye while you administer it. And Anne is the one administering the medication.
Exactly. It points the finger squarely inside the house. And then Jean Timberlake, the victim's mother, is murdered too. She is killed while trying to meet Dr. Dunn. Kinsey actually finds the body and has to flee because the police are starting to look at her as the common denominator in all this chaos.
So the walls are rapidly closing in. Orabelle is dead, Shana is dead, Tapp is dead, Jean is dead. Who benefits from this specific pattern of elimination?
This brings us to the psychological profile Kinsey builds. She realizes this isn't just about covering up a crime anymore. It's deeply emotional. Every single victim is connected to one person, Dwight Shales.
The principal.
Yeah.
The one who had the affair with Jean.
Right. Kinsey realizes the killer is driven by a pathological jealousy regarding Dwight.
So who in this tangled web is obsessed with Dwight Shales?
It's the person everyone completely overlooked, Anne Fowler.
The dutiful daughter, the martyr, the counselor. Let's really break this down. Why Anne? I mean, on paper, she's the responsible one holding the family together.
That's the mask she wears. Underneath, she is seething. It turns out Anne was secretly in love with Dwight Shales for years. But 17 years ago, Jean Timberlake, who was her student, came to her for counseling. Jean confided in Anne that Dwight was the father of her baby.
That is a brutal betrayal of trust. The student confesses to her counselor, having no idea the counselor wants that exact man for herself.
Anne snapped. She killed Jean in a rage of pure jealousy. She eliminated the competition. And this is truly the darkest part, she let her own brother Bailey take the fall for it.
Why destroy her brother, though? Just self-preservation.
No, it was deeper than that. She resented him. She hated that Bailey was the favorite child, the golden boy, despite being a total screw-up. By sending him to prison, she removed him from the family picture. She finally got to be the only child. She got her parents all to herself.
But then why kill her mother now, in the present? Why poison Orabelle after taking care of her for so long?
Greed and impatience. Anne's master plan was to inherit the family money so she could offer financial stability to Dwight. She thought she could basically buy his love, or at least tempt him into marrying her. Orabelle was taking too long to die, so Anne hurried the process along.
That is ice cold, committing matricide just to speed up an inheritance check.
And she killed Jean Timberlake because Shanna was getting friendly with Dwight. Anne viewed any woman getting close to Dwight as a mortal threat that had to be silenced permanently.
So Kinsey figures all this out. And she finds the hard evidence. The hold-up gun that Tapp Granger used in the courtroom. Kinsey finds it in Anne's room. It links Anne directly to the escape plot. Anne set up that whole courtroom disaster to keep Bailey discredited.
Kinsey goes to confront Anne, and the mask comes off completely. Anne isn't the meek, dutiful counselor anymore. She's waiting for Kinsey with a shotgun.
Which leads to the climax. And this is honestly one of the most tragic scenes in the entire Alphabet series. It's not just a standard shootout.
No. Royce Fowler intervenes. The dying father physically gets out of his deathbed. He walks right into the confrontation.
The man who hired Kinsey to save his son.
He finally sees the truth. He realizes that the monster wasn't the son who ran away, but the daughter who stayed. He wrestles the shotgun away from Anne.
He has to disarm his own child.
And in the struggle, the gun goes off. Royce accidentally shoots Anne in the foot.
Wow.
It's a maiming shot, not a kill shot, but it ends the standoff right there.
The irony there is just crushing. He spent his final days trying to save one child and ends up having to physically shoot the other to stop a killing spree.
It destroys the family completely. Anne is arrested for the murders of Shayna and Orabelle.
Does she go down for the original murder? For Jean Timberlake?
That's the realistic touch Grafton adds to the resolution. There isn't enough physical evidence after 17 years to prove she killed Jean. The forensic chain is totally broken. But the new circumstances and the other murders are enough to clear Bailey's name.
So Royce does get his wish.
He does. His son is finally free. But the cost was his wife and his daughter. He saved the family name, but he lost the family itself.
It really recontextualizes the title, F is for fugitive. Obviously, Bailey was the literal fugitive from the law, but it feels like Anne was a fugitive from reality.
That's spot on. She was running from herself. She created this entire narrative where she was the victim, the martyr, the deserving one, and she was perfectly willing to kill anyone who threatened that story. It validates the Publisher's Weekly sentiment we mentioned at the start. This really proved Grafton could handle complex, multi-layered plotting that goes way beyond a simple whodunit. It's a tragedy about a family that rotted from the inside out. Anne wanted to be the protagonist of her own life so badly that she burned the whole stage down.
And it serves as a really stark reminder of that small-town paradox we touched on earlier. We think those communities are tight-knit. But Grafton is saying that proximity does not equal knowledge.
Exactly. You can live next to someone for 20 years and not know them at all.
Which brings me to the thought I want to leave you with today. I can't stop thinking about the character of Royce Fowler. He lived in that house with Anne for 17 years after Jean's murder. She cared for him, she fed him, she washed his clothes. He looked her in the eye every single day, completely blind to the fact that she was a deeply disturbed murderer.
It is terrifying when you really think about it. He saw what he needed to see. He just saw the good daughter.
It forces us to ask a really uncomfortable question. In a small town, or even in our own homes, how much do parents really know about their children's darkest secrets? Are we ever capable of truly knowing the people we share a roof with? Or do we just project who we want them to be right up until the moment they pull a shotgun?
We interpret people based on our own needs, not their reality, until it's too late.
A chilling thought to end on, but that is exactly why we read Grafton. That is it for this deep dive into F is for Fugitive. Thank you for helping us unpack the Fowler family files.
It was a pleasure.
If you want to see a master of the genre at work, go pick up the book. It absolutely holds up. We'll see you on the next deep dive.